Hello, students. Good afternoon. Hope you all are fine. Common problems with translation. This topic today we are going to discuss because there are number of problems when we translate source material to target language. So that we are going to see what kind of problem we face. Here, first of all, introduction. We have to know that what is problem, what problem um, number of problems come when we translate. Okay, so translating, whether it is your website or something else, is rarely simply about converting text word for word into another language. So that is not just word for word, like from one language to another language, or one text to targeted language. It's not like that. It's not so simple. There are a number of problems you can run into with a translation process. So being prepared for this can make it easier to avoid certain pitfalls, right? So what pitfalls are there, we are going to see. For that reason, in this article we'll take a look at the most common translation issues, from general difficulties over cultural considerations to problem with machine and literary translation. Actually, there are two types of translation: machine and literary translation, right? So then what kind of problems we face, let us see. First problem is that's a general translation issues to be aware of. So general translation issues, like first, let's cover some of the things that often come up as difficulties when translating text. So just a normal problem first we are going to discuss. That's a common problem, or difficulties occur when we change when we translate something, right? So first is that a dissimilar language structure, right? The language structure is a very big issue actually. First are simple language differences, right? So that is the first, is that's a language differences, right? Languages can be very unlike each other on the most basic level, right? So that's a very basic level, that language structure is different, such as word order. That's a problem, common problem, word order. For example, in English you have subject, verb and object. This is a word order, such as I love you, right? But in Turkish you use subject, object and verb. Similarly in Hindi also. Example is, that's in Hindi, Ram आम खाता है, right? So here verb खाता है, that is last, and object and then subject, right? So like Turkish we follow this word order, and English, in English translation of Ram eats a mango. So here Ram, then eats, then a mango, so that is object. So in English structure, subject then verb then object. Here Ram eats a mango, right? That is there. So this is the difference, right? Here are sentence that is not readable to me, that I love you, then Ben Seni, so whatever is written. But yes, right? So that is number of languages percentage, number of families percentage, right? So these are the subject, verb, subject then object, that's a word order, right? Subject then object then verb. So these number of languages, they follow this much, right? Means this much percent they follow this word order, right? And then subject, verb and object. So this these languages, they follow this much, right? Then some of the languages, then verb, subject, object, verb, subject, object, then that is object, verb, subject, then object, subject, verb. This is the order, right? So this way the language varies. Anyway, now you can also put an entire sentence into just one word, even in Turkish. That is some was amazing, that this the sentence actually means I am in the apartment. So that's a one word, just one word, no word order. I am in the apartment. A very different structure than English. So that is why it's a very big challenge, because in English that's a One, two, three, four, five words are there in I am in the apartment, that's the English, but in Turkish then the only one word, right? So this is the difference. As a consequence, translating can come with quite a bit of rearranging, right? So translating, that's a we have to not translate only, but we have to sometime rearrange, and depending on the languages involved, so according to language we have to rearrange word order and then make sense, right? So that's a big challenge. The higher the complexity of the difference, the higher the difficulty of translating them. So that's a high complexity. As complexity raised, then that's a more difficulty we have to face, right? So that's the first thing. Now, preserving tone. The tone is the central part of the text. For example, in branding, it is how you communicate, the voice you give your business, right? It sets you apart from the competition, helps you connect with customers, and is recognizable in slogans, taglines, ads, and more. So what is the tone is the central part of the text. For example, in branding, it's how you communicate, the voice you give your business, right? So that's the important point. Tone, how, with what kind of voice you are using, it sets you apart from the competition, helps you connect with customers, right? So tone matters a lot, and is recognizable in slogans, taglines, and other more. Sometime we have now it's a technical era, so where every now and then when we open our phone, the number of advertisement, TV number of advertisement, so that we used to see that the voice is different for grabbing or for attracting customers, right? So that is, they are giving example of slogans, taglines, and other things. These are made with different tones, right? Okay, now, to make sure it translates well in other languages, you have to pay attention to what constitutes tone, because tone is very important in which context, that what message they want to convey, right? So that then accordingly language is made, or word order is maintained, something like this, right? So here what they say, that what constitute in tone, how tone is made. So here, first of all, diction, formalities, and then rhythm. Diction, your use of words, whether they are simple or complex, right? So sometimes complex words attract, sometimes simple words attract. So then that's a choice of words, right? And number two, formality, that you can use a formal or informal tone. That is also some important as per the product, right? And then rhythm, the flow of words, right? So what kind of flow you are using, that is rhythm. Humor, slang, cultural references can also be the part of tone, right? So what is tone? That's a humor, sometimes slang, sometimes cultural references, right? So this is also part of the thing. Here I have clicked on, why? Because you have to understand slang. This is a 101 slang, how to translate slang professionally. So let us see just in a very like short, we will try to understand that's a what is a slang. So that is slang is, are you having a hard time wrapping your head around slang translation? So that's a slang, right? So here, first of all, question is, that's a what is slang, right? So these are the example of slang. And due to slang, so ladies and gentlemen, what is slang? So due to its ambiguous and polysemous nature, slang can take many different forms. This can make a defining slang tag confusing folks. In its most basic form, slang is casual, often colloquial languages full of unusual expression phrases, words, है ना? These are the slangs, right? And it is mostly used within specific social groups, right? uh, that is decided by social groups or subcultural cultures to convey uh, wielded messages or validate a sense of belonging. But don't get me wrong, slang also includes loan words, swear words, made up words, right? These are the different words, right? Professional jargons. So these are the thing. However, due to lack of the standard characteristics of formal languages, slang presents almost unfortunable problems for translators across the board. So here are few popular examples. First of all, that's let's dive right in. This is slang, right? And that's a example is that you are the goat is a popular slang phrase, particularly within the younger generation. It means that you are the greatest of all time, right? So, Lionel Messi is the goat in soccer, or perhaps Ronaldo is more of your cup of tea. Whoever floats your boat, like, see what I did there again. So if someone says you are the goat, it means you are aware, you are awesome at what you do. But if you were to translate the phrase into Swahili, for instance, so you get something like, I'm not going to read this much, but that's a difficult task, right? So that is why we cannot translate. That's a slang actually I wanted to show you. So that's a humor, slang, cultural references can also be the part of tone, and that's a very big challenge to translate. All of this is hard to replicate one to one in another language, and you need a skilled translator to do so. So that's a very experienced skilled translator. We need to change slangs and cultural references and humor also. Another option is to opt for a slightly different tone in your target language, but then you also need to make sure it is consistent, right? So that anyhow you have to change the sense also, not only words, but that sense should be maintained, right? Now, dealing with compound words, that's also one of the challenges. Compound words are combinations of two or more different words forming a new one, and some of them have a clear meaning differently related to their parts, like toothbrush, right? So however their meaning can also be less direct, such as that's a bookworm. While it is not really a worm, it still paints an unstable picture of person it describes. So there are also examples of compound words that have no relation to the object they describe. Butterfly, right? So such kind of things. Of course, translating compound words like this needs a lot of skills, and especially if they don't exist in the same way in the target language. You also need to know when not to take them literally. By the way, a language well known for its use of long compound words in German, right? So that is there. Now translating two word verbs. So what is two word verbs? Two word verbs are the ban of language learners around the world having to memorize the difference between to break up, to break in, to break down. That's a who does not remember. So that is two word verbs are a ban of language learners around the world, right? So that is the there. So that's a blessings, we can say that. So these are very easy and common words, right? And then on the surface they are simply a combination of a verb and a preposition. However, together they take a specific meaning that are very different from each other, and you have to translate them together, not separately. For example, let me give you one Hindi example. That's a khandan. So Khan is, if we translate, so Khan is mines, right, and Dan is donation, but Khandan is generation. So it's nothing to do with Khan and nothing to do with Dan, but it's a Khandan. So similarly, many words are there. There's a compound word are different and meaning is totally different. They are giving example. Of course, this can also pose a problem with converting them from one language to another. So that's a actually very big task to change compound words or two words or this such type of words into targeted language. That's a very big problem. You need to be skilled in both the source and target language to transfer the meaning of two word verbs correctly. So that is also very big. It needs a good knowledge of both the languages, right? Now, words with multiple meanings, that is since long time when we have discussed the that's a ambiguity also, where also we have discussed there's a one word which have multiple meanings, so that's a big problem. So another common issue is translating is that words can have more than one meaning, especially depending on where they appear in a sentence, right? So that is also where such sentences such word is being used. The mainly run into two different cases here: homonyms and heteronyms. Homonyms as these are the spelled and pronounced, right? So homonyms are the words which are spelled and pronounced in a same way, but can have different meanings. For example, scale the fish and put it on the scale. So scale the fish, suppose this is the fish, right? Suppose this is the fish. Okay, this is the fish. Okay, so that is scale the fish and put it on the scale. So that is scale the fish. So that is scale the fish and put it on the scale. These, right? So that's a different problem, right? Homonym, one scale is different from another one is measurement in something that's a different word, right? Heteronyms, they look the same but have different meaning and pronunciation. Tear off a piece of paper and wipe your tear with it, right? So that's a tear off is that's a piece of paper means that's a pieces of paper, and wipe your tear, and this tear is that's a when we cry something, right, it with. So that's another example where it's a heteronyms means same words. Names is no name or mean word is same, but that's the spelling is different. So these two require knowing both languages involved in the translation very well. So that's a these two require knowing both languages, which is very important that we have to know the both the languages, otherwise you risk making serious mistakes, right? Now next is humor and sarcasm. Humor in general can be a problem in translation. That is also because creating humor is also a big challenge, and then translation is because it does not always convert well into another language. So that of course is especially true for humor that relies uh, on word plays to be funny. So that sometime because you have to maintain that fun, right? So that's about kind of words and word order will be used. A special case here is sarcasm, right? So that's a it often expresses something that is quite the opposite of the word. Sarcasm is just quite opposite of the word used. If you were to take or translate it literally, you would not have end up with the intended meaning, right? So that's a problem. Now, in humor, you also have to take cultural concerns. Cultural concerns, because every society and community has its own culture, right? Into consideration, something that might be a joke in one language cannot be harsh insult in another. So that's a joke in one language can be harsh in insult or insult in another. Suppose uh, any word sometime we use in our language, suppose in Hindi, if we say that pagal, right? But it might be that the pagal is a lovely word, also it shows affection, but sometime it may be very serious or objectionable word for to other language, right? So therefore you have to work with the nuances, so that the intent works in both languages, right? So more on that soon. Anyway, next, name translation. That's a translation. Names can be a challenge. This is especially for names that are originally in a non-Latin script. For example, the former leader of China can either be written a uh, Mao Zedong or Mao Zedong, depending on which translation you use. So name is also a big challenge, because in a translation you have to make a choice and stick with it. So that is choice, but then you have to stick with it. Okay, now that's a comparison of this words. I'm not doing this because I don't know. But now next is, that's a lack of knowledge on subject matter. What? Translation is first and foremost linguistic endeavor. That is, no doubt, it's a linguistic endeavor, no? You have to have knowledge of both the languages. You have to possess the general knowledge of how to transfer, right? Transfer text from one language to another, so that is very important in translation. And however, another consideration is the subject of what you are translating. So what's another consideration is subject, what you are translating. You need to have sufficient knowledge of what a text is talking about, as well to make sure it ends up correct, right? So important thing is sufficient knowledge you have to have about the subject, right? Suppose I am science student, so then I can be very easily, I can easily change a science subject, science study material into English, right? So that's a subject knowledge is also very important. Imagine translating a medical or legal text or instructional for how use like dangerous chemicals without having a clue on the topic. So the outcome could be disastrous, right? So that's a chemicals, you have to have knowledge about chemicals, how to use and what should not be done. Otherwise, suppose you mistranslate, so that can be very much disastrous. Okay, so that's risk also, it's very risky also. That is why translators often specialize in one or two subject matters. That is also, translators need to have knowledge about the subject, so they are specialized in subject matter, so that they enough knowledge to keep that from happening, so that they can change it into real like meaning is very important. Then designing layout issues, especially in website translation, you can often run into problems with layout and design because of translation. Especially Asian characters based on languages are often much shorter than equivalent text in Western alphabets, since each character is an entire word or syllable, right? So that is big challenge. That's a website translation. So this kind of translation comes, that's a design and layout issues. You can often run into problems with layout and design because of translation. Especially Asian character based languages are often much shorter than equivalent text in Western alphabets. A big problem, right? So here we have to discuss, and this alphabet such as each character's entire word or syllabus. That's a big problem. Okay, now plus you have some languages that run from right to left instead of the other way around. So that's a right to left. So you have some languages that run from right to left, right? So that's a right to left. Okay, I'm repeating this way, sometime right to left. No, so that is around. Finally, website text is most often accompanied by images, which can also certain contain text or target specific local. So that's a machine, is a machine. Okay, now all of that has a bearing on website design and can mess up the original layout. Okay, and then something to keep in mind when converting your website into other languages. Now, expensive and time consuming. A more practical problem with translation is that hiring a translator is not always cheap, especially for rare languages, the language pairs. That is money you could use for other things like growing your website or business, or if you go the cheap way, the quality might not be good enough. So that's a big problem. Plus translation can be time intensive and it's a time taking. After receiving to translation, you have to review it to make sure it is accurate for your line of work. So that is also, you have to be assured that it's accurate. And then machine translation can help, but it has it's a problem in comparison to manual translation. So that's a machine is faces this problem. That's a can help in problems in comparison and to manual translation. Okay, so could however you should also view these as an installment. Properly translated website can bring in new business and expand your market. So it often ends up having a positive ROI. Like then cultural issues in translation, in adding to general problem, you can also run into translation issues rooted in culture. So that's a translation, language and culture both are actually coexist. And then however are few examples. Culture and language are tightly connected, you know that. First of all, it's important to keep in mind that language reflects the values, beliefs, customs, right? That's a language, actually traditions of the people and who speak it. That is why different words can carry different meanings, right, in separate language. So that's important, that the same meaning but different language different meaning. In China, it is used to be common to greet each word with have you eaten, as good was not always available in the past, right? So that is the big challenge. Okay, I'll be making another video after some time because sorry, I have to go somewhere, and then this will be continued.